and saying unto him, is it lawful for a man to put away his wife for every cause?
Right, it says it's lawful for a man to put away his wife for every cause.
Right.
That's something what a lot of people deal with in Israel, man. Right? A lot of people, right, everybody want a rib until they actually got a rib. Right, because once you got a rest, it ain't as sweet as you thought, man. Right? When you don't have a rib, you constantly just think about the benefits that come with having a woman. Right? She might cook for you, she might clean for you. Right, brothers, the sex, my God, man. Right, brothers can't get enough of thinking about it. Right? But then once you get that woman, you realize, oh, she also got an attitude. Right? She might have a slick mouth. She might have a slick mouth. Right? She might low-key have some her teeth kind of crooked and you ain't noticed that in the beginning. And you know how when you're dealing with somebody for so long, right, you start to see the little stuff and it really start bothering you. Right, so many people, once they start getting deep up in this relationship, now they don't really want to be in it no more. Right? It was all fun and games, right? The brother called it the honeymoon phase. Right, when it's all sweet, when it's all kind, when it's all calm. Right, but then once the honeymoon phase over with, right, what happened? Right, it says this, is it lawful for what? Read it again.
Lawful for a man to put away his wife for every cause.
Right, is it lawful for a man to put away his wife for every cause? Right. Then brothers get an evil eye towards it. Real fast, what is that? Deuteronomy 23? We get that real fast. Deuteronomy 22, 24. Right, Deuteronomy chapter 24, right? And start at verse number 20. Start at verse 1.
It's Deuteronomy 24 and verse 1.
Bring it up.
The man had taken a wife and married her, and it come to pass that she find no favor in his eyes.
Right, and when she had what?
When she find no favor in his eyes.
Right, and then this is the thing, right? The same way that at the time of Yahweh Shah, right, they had gotten lost from what uncleanness actually meant is the same way that it is now, right, with a lot of brothers in the truth. I think like, oh, I can put my wife away for spiritual fornication. She ain't in the truth no more, right? She don't my eggs be a little runny when she cook them, right? Sister, what's going on, brother? How you doing? Right? You heard of what's going on? We got going on up here before? Right, you ever seen this image?
Yeah. Not with all the variations to it, but
now, let me ask you, why do you think we put the horns on? Wild guess. You said what?
I didn't say not Jesus.
Right, why not?
It's Cesare Borgia.
All praises.
All praises.
Right? His name is Caesar Borgia, Cesare Borgia, like I just said it. Right? Pope Pius VI of Rome, right, his son, right, who was a homosexual, by the way, right, and they painted him as the image of Christ. Real fast, give me Wisdom of Solomon. I think I want 14 and start at verse 20.
It's the book of Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 14 and verse 20.
Right?
And so the multitude, allured by the grace of the word, took him now for a god.
Took him now for a what?
Took him now for a god.
Took now a mortal man as a god, right? Read on.
Which a little before was but honored as a man.
Right, read.
And this was an occasion to deceive the world.
Right, and this was an occasion to deceive the world. They deceived the entire world. A lot of you don't know. Right? Them painting him as the image of Jesus Christ was actually written about in the Bible thousands of years ago. Right, jump up to verse 15.
Verse 15. For a father afflicted with untimely mourning,
right,
when he had made an image of his child soon taken away,
right,
now honored him as a god.
So what happened was the Pope that was reigning at the time, right, his son died at a young age, right, and when he died, right, he then had, was it Michelangelo? He had one of them kind of repaint this picture, right, as a picture of Christ, because we understand Christ like he looks like what? What does he look like? Who does Jesus actually look like?
If we go by Revelations,
right?
That's not true.
Yeah.
Let's see, what is it? It's got feet like burnt brass, hair like lambs.
Yep. He got a curly fro, right? I don't even want to say curly, man. You probably, right, try to stick a comb through there was a little rough, right? You don't read that.
Revelation chapter 1 and verse 14.
Hello.
His head and his hairs were white like
wool. Right, so he had a woolly texture hair and he was gray, right, full of wisdom, right? We doing?
As white as snow, and his eyes were as a flame of fire.
Now, anytime you see black folks and we look into the light, our brown eyes look like what? You get a reddish hue, right? Now, Yahweh Shah was full of passion, right? His eyes were red with wine, meaning that he had the perfect doctrine, right? We doing?
And his feet.
And his what?
And his feet.
Now it's the color of his skin, right? Read on.
Like unto fine brass.
Now we all understand that brass is a brownish color, right? Read on.
As if they burned in a furnace.
But now you take that same brass and you put some heat to it, right? Anything you overcook is gonna be black, right? Christ was a so-called black man. However, they gave us this image, right? And they gave us this image, the Bible said, to deceive the world. Now, anytime a little black child looks at somebody as their hero, or looks at somebody as their salvation, who they gonna think about? They're gonna think about the oppressor.
Right.
The same person that keeps them down. Right? And then anytime we got a problem, who is the black woman first to call? Police. Because she know the police gonna come down on the black man.
Right.
And the same way with the black brother towards his own brothers, man. And so that's why we put horns on this. Right? Because what he actually is actually the devil. Right? The word devil just means deceiver. This image has deceived the entire world. Now, real fast, go to Revelation chapter 2 and verse 9. You got any questions, brother?
I'm just listening.
Oh, praise. You ever heard that you were an Israelite before?
I know that some are Israelites. I'm not, but some are.
So why would you say that you are?
Huh?
Why would you say that you're not?
Because me, I can't speak for everyone. Me, I'm an Ishmaelite.
Israelite.
You know, it's still Abraham's seed.
So why would you say that you're an Ishmaelite?
Because it's Abraham's seed.
No.
The side I'm on.
I got you. Oh, so you would be Arab? You'd be Arabic?
I don't think that's a good way to say it either. I think I do appreciate y'all message. I think with this image, we've been deceived a lot about who we are. We always look to something white, whether it be this white man or sometimes Muslims look to white Arabs and think that we white Arabs. They just as much slave and oppressors as these guys. So.
Right.
But even dealing with, like how you said, the Ishmaelites, like your descendants are from the transatlantic slave trade. So if you were a descendant of the transatlantic slave trade, there was a different people than the Ishmaelites. So the Ishmaelites even had a hand in the transatlantic slave trade. They were the ones that actually built the ships, right? So they built the ships, right? The white man bought us, the Africans caught us, right? But the so-called Jew, right? The Jew was the one that paid and funded everything.
Right.
Right, so you say that you're an Ishmaelite, right? By true descent, you would actually be an Israelite, and we're gonna show you why biblically. Now give me Deuteronomy 28 and 68 real
Bring
quick.
it out.
Right, now there's an entire history that kind of goes into it. There's this book, right, that was written at a school in New Orleans. I can't remember what it is off the top of my head. But it talks about the different lands that they were in.
Is that the Bible?
Yeah, this is the Bible right here.
Both of them?
King James, and he's got the Apocrypha.
Okay.
Right? Read on, my bad, bro.
It's Deuteronomy 28 and verse 68.
Bring it out.
And the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again.
So this word Egypt just means bondage or slavery, right? You grew up in a biblical household? A little bit, not too much. That's how most of us was, right? But we all know Moses for saying
Everybody
what?
knew. I know that image.
Yeah,
I tell you that.
right. We know this image, and we know Moses with his staff turning into a snake and him saying, "Let my people go." He split the waters up, right?
Right,
But when
right.
him saying, "Let my people go," that's because his people were in what? They were in bondage. They were in captivity. Now, when you look at the black man here in America, what would you say that we're in? We're in bondage. We're in captivity. So when he says, "I'm gonna bring my people back into Egypt," he's just saying, "I'm gonna bring my people into a similar captivity." But how did we get over here? I'm asking you.
Oh. Well, we came over here a bunch of different ways. Some of us came as slaves.
Some of us came as slaves. Some of us came a little earlier, right?
Some of us.
Our native brothers,
Yeah.
right? But it says, right, read it again from the top.
It says, and the Lord shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships.
Read it again.
With
ships.
ships.
The Most High said.
With
He said
ships.
he was going to bring us into slavery on ships. Now, I done read a lot of books. I ain't never seen a book tell us that was going to happen about our people.
Right.
It's a book called The Black Image in a White Mind, right? And the man, it took 100 years to do this study, and what he said was that even looking at our cranial structure and our habits, that we were clearly different from the African race, from the Egyptian race, and from other races on this planet. A lot of times what we do is because we look the same skin folk, we think that we kinfolk. Right? When an Arab would never say that they're the same as us.
That's right.
Or Palestinian, or any of them, but you know what our people are quick to do? Quick to say that we're Ishmaelite.
Well, since we're using Bible, if you go to Acts chapter 2, it'll talk about how, one of those curses, how our people were scattered into all nations of the earth.
Right.
And that when the Holy Spirit fell, that we began to speak with other tongues as the Spirit gave us utterance, and that brought us, those of us who were scattered, back to being one.
Yeah.
And it mentions specifically how some of us, if you go to Acts chapter 2, maybe verse 10, it'll talk about the Arabs and how some of us were Arab, but when you break up the people, our people, you broke up our language as well. And so some of us think that because we speak a different language, like how Israelites speak Hebrew and Arabs speak Arabic, but really that's the same language because we're Abraham's seed.
Yeah.
And we were all one son until, this, and it kind of split us apart. Acts chapter 2 talks about us coming back together despite the fact that we had spoken different languages and things like that. We all come back. So that's why I say you Ishmaelites and Israelites aren't really different.
Okay.
Abraham's son. It's like, I don't know, like my dad, he has a son by my mom, and then he has a son by another one. But we still brothers. So it don't make us different, even though we have different things.
All right, go to Acts chapter 2.
This is Acts chapter 2 and verse 5.
Like how you said, we had different. You had Arabs, or not Arabs, but you had Ishmaelites, not Ishmaelites, right? But you had it might have said like Arabians. They say Ethiopians. It might have said Egyptians. But here's the thing about it. Like me myself, right? I would be an American, right? Now it might be another black brother over in Italy. He'll be Italian. However, they'll change our ethnicity. Right. So let's read Acts the second chapter real fast and let's see what he called.
Acts 2 and 5. And there were dwelling at Jerusalem Jews.
Who?
Jews.
Read it again.
Jews.
So it was different types of Jews. Right, read on.
Devout men out of every nation under heaven.
So it says that you had Jews out of every nation under heaven. So even the Jews that were there, right, or that might have said that, we're Arabian, right? They were just a Jew living in Arabia. Right? So when we deal with the ethnicities of people, right, real fast, I want you to go to Romans chapter 9 and start at verse 7, right? When we deal with the ethnicity of people, us and the Ishmaelites will be two completely different people. Right.
Well, wait, before you do that, Jesus said when he came into when he came in on the donkey, he said the prophecy was that the Ishmaelites would be a wild ass of a man. And that when Jesus came back into the triumphant entry, he fulfilled the prophecy of the Ishmaelites, saying to bring me a wild ass, on which I can't think of where it is, but bring me a wild ass on which a man has never been ridden. And it was that Jesus calling in the Ishmaelites. Because again, like you said, we might be Jews speaking Italian or Jews speaking, well nowadays Jews speak Yiddish. It's not even,
that's a different,
that's a whole different thing. And even that, right there, that's not Hebrew either. That's
which one?
That's
so that is Paleo Hebrew.
That's some kind of Ethiopian.
No, that's the oldest form of. So when you deal, if I may, when you deal with languages like us, even though like we said we call this Hebrew, different parts of the world gonna call this like a Canaanite, Canaanite Hebrew, right?
Like because scriptures.
Yeah. So even though it's the same language, so when you deal, the further you go back in history, the more simpler languages become, and the less languages you have. So a lot of us would deal, we would deal with the Hebrew, but we would call it different things. Right. And when you read in Isaiah, it calls it, it say that we're gonna speak the language of the Canaanites, even though we spoke the same language. They just had a different dialect.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
Like,
that's what I'm saying. Like how Arabic and Hebrew, it's the same thing. It's the same language.
It's similar depending on how far back you go.
I got a point. It's like how Spanish had different dialects of Spanish.
Right. Yeah, like Puerto Rican Spanish and Mexican Spanish.
Right, but that's what I'm saying. Yeah, Arabic and Hebrew is the same language. It's just a different dialect. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like how you were saying, they did got different dialects, and then this devil. He came and confused and made you feel like how we feel like we different from Jamaica. Like we not different. You just say Jamaica. When the ship came, dropped one of y'all off in Jamaica, dropped one of y'all off in the Americas, and over time we get kind of confused.
Right.
So it's with Aramaic, it's a different language, but it's similar when you go back far enough, but it's different. Like how they say Allah and we say Allahayim. It's similar. I wouldn't necessarily call it a different dialect. It's a different language. It's just like a real similar language.
Yeah, I mean,
Kinda
that's the same thing. Like you
yeah.
can say refrigerator, but people down south say frigidaire.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
But that's like a form of broken English, right? Aramaic isn't Hebrew. They both come from the same Hebrew. They both come from the same language, but they different languages. So it's kind of more than a dialect. It's a different language, but that's why I was saying if you go back far enough, it's close enough. But I'm gonna deal with what you said with Ishmael. Right, bring that out real fast.
This is Genesis chapter 16 and verse 12.
Right, because you brought out a heavy point, but you kind of misquoted the scripture a little bit. So we're gonna break it down, right? What does it say?
Let's start at verse 11.
Uh-huh.
And the angel of the Lord said unto her, Behold, thou art with child, and shalt bear a son, and shall call his name Ishmael.
Right.
Because the Lord hath heard thy affliction,
Uh-huh.
and he will be a wild man.
He will be what?
He will be a wild man.
So it says that Ishmael would be a wild man, which is why when you look over there now, they blowing folks up.
I mean, but you can say that. You can say that about us. About us. We shooting each other. We killing each other. You know, some of us send each other to jail over.
We
because,
do,
you know.
But you know what we would never do? We'd never run a plane into the Empire State Building. Because we wild, don't get me wrong, we can be very violent. But when it says Ishmael is a wild man,
I mean, we counting
wild.
sins at this point. No, we didn't run no plane. No. I mean, I'm not trying to throw nothing on us. But
Yeah.
No, we didn't run no planes into buildings, but 50% of us
We got
are
our
locked up
violence.
in prison.
Yeah, we have our
You know what I mean?
violence.
So we have
too.
every generation has their degree of devilishment.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So we can't identify ourselves by devilishment because that's not us. That's not as you say. You know what I mean?
So what we doing, we'll never take away from like what black, we understand, we accept that black people have problems in our own communities, but that don't negate the problems that they have. Even though like we violent against each other,
Yeah.
right? One, we not violent against other races of people. We really just violent against ourselves. And then two, right, when you look at the crimes that we do commit, they're on a completely different scale. Like us, we might shoot another brother. But an Ishmaelite will run into this Walgreens and blow themselves up and every child and infant in there. It's a thing that we used to have back in the streets. If a brother was with his family, or if he was with his kids, he was off limits. Even if he was somebody that tried to kill you,
Well, I actually
you couldn't touch
We'll
him.
go to the Bible. What was Ishmael's mother?
Ishmael's mother, Hagar.
What was she?
She was a Egyptian.
What was Abraham?
He was a Hebrew.
No, he wasn't.
He was a Hebrew.
No, he
Or-
wasn't.
How he was a Hebrew?
He was Chaldean. Hebrews didn't come
I
to
got
later.
what you're saying. So when it says he was a Chaldean, he was from the land of Chaldea, but he was a Hebrew. No,
But Hebrews didn't exist then. Hebrews didn't exist.
Hebrews come from Eber.
Huh?
Hebrews come from Eber.
Where?
Eber is a man named Eber who was in Abraham's lineage.
So someone who came before Abraham.
Yeah, his name was Eber. He's the progenitor of the Hebrews.
Because Hebrew.
It's in Genesis
10.
Yeah.
Read.
We're gonna start at verse 1. This is Genesis chapter 10. I believe it's at verse number 10 when you get it. We're just gonna read through it. It says, Now these are the generations of the sons of Noah, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Unto them were sons born after the flood. The sons of Japheth, Gomer, Magog, Madai.
Down to Shem.
You said Shem?
Yeah, skip to Shem.
Verse 21. Unto Shem, also the father of the children of Eber.
Right, so this is straight after the flood. Right, you got Shem. It says even after what?
It says unto Shem, also the father of all the children of Eber.
So it says that he's the father of all of the children of Eber. Right, Eber, whose name it means Hebrew. That's where we get the term Hebrew from. Right, you can read on.
It says the brother of Japheth, the elder, even to him were children born.
Right.
The children of Shem, Elam, Ashur,
So you got Elam, which would be the so-called Elamites. Right, read on.
Arphaxad,
Or the East Indians, my bad. Right, Ashur would be the Assyrians. Right, read on.
Arphaxad,
Uh-huh.
and Alud, and Aram, and the children of Aram, Uz, and Hol, and Gether, and Mash. And Arphaxad begat Salah, and Salah begat Eber.
Right, and it says in Salah begat who?
Salah begat Eber.
And Salah begot Eber.
So Eber means Hebrew.
Eber is where you get Hebrew from.
Okay.
Which is why it said that he's that read the 21 again.
Unto Shem also, the father of all the children of Eber.
Right, which is why it talks about Eber, because he was the progenitor of everybody that was a Hebrew.
Why does it also say? So I don't understand the difference between Abraham being Hebrew and Chaldean.
So Chaldea was the land.
Okay.
So he's from just how we talked earlier. I said that I would be an American, or another brother would be Italian, but I would still be a Hebrew. So when it says I'm a Chaldean, like I'm American, I can go over to France and be like I'm American. But what is my ethnicity still? I'm still a black man, right? So when it called him a Chaldean, it's just talking about the land that he came from. He came from Ur the Chaldees, right? So that's Abraham's lineage specifically. Now, real fast, go to Romans chapter 9 and start at verse 7.
It's the book of Romans, chapter 9, and verse number 7.
Right?
No.
Neither, because they are the seed of Abraham. Are they all children?
Right, so like how it says, neither because they're the seed of Abraham are they all children. Abraham had many children, right? Matter of fact, go back to that real fast. Go back to Genesis chapter 10. I shouldn't have to drop. Genesis chapter 10, right? Start at verse.
Why are you looking for that? I guess I'm also still kind of confused as to how Ishmael and Israel could be different when they have the same father. And the promise was that Abraham's seed would be blessed.
All right.
And you know what I mean?
All right,
So I guess I'm kind of missing the difference.
Go to Genesis. Oh, you want us to break this down first? Or?
I mean, go ahead. Do your thing.
It would make sense.
Yeah, do your-
All right, so you found it. The children of Jacob. All right, we just deal with that real fast. Like, go to Genesis chapter 18 real fast. Like Genesis chapter 17, start at verse 19.
This is Genesis 17 and verse 19.
No.
And God said,
Start at verse 18.
verse 18. And Abraham said unto God, "Oh, that Ishmael might live before thee."
Right, because Ishmael was his son, right? He said, oh, that Ishmael might live before thee. Because who usually gets the lineage? The eldest son, right?
And God said, "Sarah, thy wife shall bear thee a son indeed,
Right.
and thou shalt call his name Isaac.
Right.
And I will establish my covenant with him for an everlasting covenant, and with his seed for after him."
So even though Ishmael was the firstborn son, real fast, I want you to go to Romans chapter 9 and start at verse 10. Right, even though he was the firstborn son, right, the Most High still had his chosen lineage. So he said, I'm gonna cause Sarah to have a son, and then my covenant is gonna be with him. Right? Read that in
Romans 9 and 10.
Uh-huh.
And not only this, but when Rebekah also had conceived by one, even by our father Isaac, for the children being not yet born,
Right.
neither having done any good or evil, that the purpose of God according to election.
According to what?
According to election.
So it's different. It's going to be according to election. Because you know who also wasn't the firstborn child? Jacob. Jacob wasn't the firstborn child.
Right.
Esau was. Who did the Most High choose? He still chose Jacob. So the Most High chose it not according to what?
According to election,
Uh-huh.
might stand not of works,
Right? Not of works, but of what?
but of him that called us.
So the Most High had the ones that he picked. So when we go back to Genesis, the 17th chapter, right? Who was the one that he picked? He picked Isaac, right? And Isaac was the progenitor of who? Jacob and Esau, right? So there was always a specific lineage that he was going to go into, right? I think I want 16 and verse 3. I'll let you have something. Oh, you got something?
Yeah, I wanted to make a point. Also, like, because you asking how they'd be different. When you deal with Genesis, the Lord already said that Abraham will be the father of many nations. So it's going to be a separation between Isaac, between Ishmael, between some of their kids. That's why you got because all these men come from Adam, and all these people come from then they come from Noah, Shem, Ham, Japheth. They are all different people. Shem is different. Ham is the progenitor of all the Egyptian nations, like the Canaanites, the Jebusites, etc. So I'm gonna read this in Genesis 17 and 3. I'm gonna start at verse 1. And when Abram was 90 years old and 9, the Lord appeared to Abram and said unto him, I am the Almighty God, walk before me and be thou perfect.
Right.
And I will make a covenant between me and thee, and will multiply thy seed exceedingly. Abraham fell on his face, and God talked to him, saying, As for me, behold, my covenant is with thee, and thou shalt be a father of many nations.
Right.
Neither shall thy name any more be called Abram, but thy name shall be Abraham, for a father of many nations have I made thee.
Right. So he was a progenitor to many nations, right? However, even though he had all of those sons, like Midian, the Midianites were his, even though he had all those sons, right? Go to Galatians chapter 3 real fast.
Before you go there, so are these his too?
Who?
These ones.
Them?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, yes. Hold on. And even worse, unfortunately, that's our twin brother, right? But he's kind of like an evil twin, right? He like, you know, how they do the whole yin and yang thing, right? He just an evil twin.
Because I always found it curious about the Bible is that, you know, you say things like this is children, but like Jesus came for his seed.
Yeah.
But then you read somebody like Paul, and he does completely opposite. Right? He goes to the Europeans.
And back and forth. I'm talking.
He goes to these devils, and like after Jesus specifically said, "I didn't come to the Gentiles," but he came for his seed. Paul takes it and goes and gets them, but then we still kind of read his books and we reference him when defending Christ. In my opinion, even though they say Paul was a defender of Christ, I don't see it after what I've read. So it kind of, to me, that kind of gives me. I mean, I don't know if that's one of those Bibles that got the map in the back of it.
No, it might not. I get what you're saying.
Yeah, but it's like that's when Paul went all through years. So, I mean, I agree that this is the devil, but it just seems kind of contradictory how we use Paul a lot to defend, you know, with Romans and Colossians, you know.
So here's the thing, right? You know who usually uses that as a defense? Right, it's the Christian church, right? Biblically, that's not a stance at all. Right. We're gonna kind of biblically, that it's not a stance that Paul turned around and was making salvation for everybody.
That's true.
So, and we gonna break. What I said was is that the Christian church.
Oh, okay.
Now you found what I was looking for. Right, read that. Real
This
fast.
2 Peter chapter 3 and verse. We start at verse 16. It says, "As also in all his epistles, speaking of these things, and which are some things hard to be understood."
So Paul, some of the things that Paul said, everything Paul said was hard to be understood. So while it might look like he's giving salvation unto everybody, he's not actually giving salvation unto everybody.
Right.
Paul was like, he taught the AP class when other niggas were supposed to be in remedial English. Like
I don't necessarily agree with that. I think Paul taught the remedial class, and the prophets taught the AP class. Paul wasn't a prophet.
he was a prophet.
No, he wasn't. He didn't say that.
No, he was a prophet.
Romans chapter 1.
Which one?
Huh?
Which part of it?
Just start there. It'll tell you what he said.
When you go to 1 Thessalonians, the 4th chapter, he gave a prophecy when he talks about the third trumpet. Like the third trumpet. So Paul was indeed a prophet, right? But however, the thing is when it comes to Paul, right, the letters of Paul, if you ask me in my opinion, are harder to break down in Revelations.
How so?
Because I can break down, well, we can break down really all of it. However, the prophecies that's in Revelations, you see more people that understand that versus the letter to Paul. And we're going to show you why and how he don't contradict himself. Right, real fast, we ain't got to go to Thessalonians. Go to Galatians chapter 3.
Bring it up.
Galatians chapter 3. Before that, go to Acts chapter 22 and start at verse 26. Right, we're going to get that real fast. And then one thing that the brother that taught me said was never forget what you learned. Right? So we're going to break the scripture down real fast. Read that.
Acts 22 and 26.
Come.
This is the book of Acts, chapter 22 and verse 26.
Look it up.
When the centurion heard that, he went and told the chief captain, saying,
26 and 22. 26 and 22.
He's talking about, what's his name?
Give me 26 and 22.
God, this is Acts 26 and 22. Having therefore obtained help of God, I continue unto this day, witnessing both to small and great, saying none other things
So he said, I'm not teaching no other thing than what?
than those which the prophets and Moses did say should come.
So he said everything that the prophets and Moses and the law, he said, I'm teaching all of that. Now remember when I said never forget what you were taught. Right. Let's go back to Galatians, the 3rd chapter, and start at verse 13.
Galatians chapter 3 and verse number 13.
Right.
Christ hath redeemed us from the curse of the law, being made a curse for us, for it is written, curse is...
Wait, right there. Christ has redeemed us from the curse of the law. But the law is not a curse. The law comes from God. Jesus, he also said, that's Paul, but Jesus said that I came not to destroy the law, but to fulfill it. So like that contradiction right there, saying that the law is a curse. But it comes, that comes from God.
Let him break it down.
No, what you just said was heavy, right? Go to Deuteronomy 21 real fast. Deuteronomy 21 and start at verse 22. It
It's the book of Deuteronomy.
Now hold that. And finish
And my
out
issue ain't with Jesus or the word.
No.
It's just with Paul.
It's the understanding now. Never forget what you were taught. He said, I taught nothing other than what the law and the prophets taught. And then Peter said that some things are hard to be understood. Now read that again in Galatians.
Christ hath redeemed us from the curse of the law,
Come on.
being made a curse for us, for it is written, cursed is everyone that hangeth on a tree.
Right? It says, cursed is everyone that hangeth on a tree. So when it says that Christ has saved us from the curse of the law, right, what did he do with that woman that was caught in adultery?
You let it go.
What was supposed to happen?
She was supposed to be stoned.
She was supposed to be stoned.
Right.
So when he said he has saved us from the curse of the law, eating pork is not a curse. But you know what is a curse? Being put to death for eating pork. Being put to death for sleeping with another man's woman. That's a curse. Or not even, let's say, another man's woman. Right? Biblically, right, say if a woman is married and she's separated from her man. Right? Now, ain't no woman in here a virgin. If you sleep with that woman, you know what you done did? You done committed adultery. Now, you would be worthy of what? Being put to death.
But wouldn't that just be justice?
You said what?
Wouldn't that just be justice?
Now,
Not
say
a curse?
biblically, sex is marriage.
Right.
Right? So if they separate, technically they still married.
Right.
So if she
Well,
sleeps,
biblically, you also can have more than one wife.
yeah. So let's say that if I got my woman and she leave and stop messing with me, and some other brother lays down with her because she like, I'm single, that brother is worthy to be put to death.
So should she.
Huh?
So should she.
You not wrong.
Because but that's breaking up the family too. I mean, we see that kind of stuff. I mean, it's just in America you don't get stoned for it, but it happens all the time.
Yeah.
And now you get these mixed families, and you get these breakups, and, you know, and that's like the root of the nation.
Now we not disagreeing with that at all. But however,
I'm not saying you should be out of stone.
you know what the brother though, no, you good, you in the right. But the brother would be innocent because he didn't know nothing about me. He was, according to the law, he's supposed to be put to death. But he doesn't have to be because of Christ. Right? That's being saved from the curse of the law. Now remember when Paul said, curse is everyone that hangeth on a tree. Right? Deuteronomy 21 and 22.
This is Deuteronomy chapter 21 and verse 22.
Right, we go.
If a man had committed a sin worthy of death, and he be put to death, and thou hang him on a tree.
Right?
His body shall not remain all night upon the tree, but thou shalt in any wise bury him that day, for he that is hanged is a curse of God.
So the man that is hanged is a curse of God. If you get put to death by any capital punishment, that's the curse that is talking about Christ saved us from. So we no longer have to be put to death for certain crimes that we commit against God. So when we go back to Galatians, the 3rd chapter, right, what is Paul teaching? Paul is teaching the same exact thing that Christ taught. To show compassion on you instead of killing or putting you to death. Right? He's teaching the same thing that Christ taught when he said, I taught nothing no other than the prophets and Moses.
But my issue is, Paul, he makes it very clear that he was an apostle to the Gentiles.
Yeah.
Makes that very clear.
We finna
But
get to that.
that's not you.
We finna get
Or
to that.
you, or any of us.
That we not apostles to the Gentiles.
We not Gentiles.
We at one point we would be Gentiles, and I'm gonna break it down how. Now I just showed you how with that.
Well, you can't be Hebrew and a Gentile.
I'm gonna break it down.
Okay.
Right? Because do you know what Gentile means?
Gentile means not the children of God.
No, Gentile just means nation. It comes from the Hebrew word goyim.
Goyim.
Right? It just means goyim, or in the modern Hebrew goyim. Right? It just means nation, not a specific nation. Now when we read in Acts 2, right, he said it was Ishmaelites there. When we read in the 5th verse, they said that even though there were Ishmaelites there, what nationality were they? They were still Jews.
Jew, that's kind of a word play too. I mean, we can do a word play. Jew is more of a Yiddish word, but it is what it is. God didn't call people nobody's Jew. God didn't call nobody.
So they started being called Jews after the kingdom was split. I'm just kind of deal with that real fast. That's not a Yiddish thing. They started being called Jews after the kingdom was split. Right. It's short for Judah or Judea, right? Because those are the people that still stuck to the land of Judea. Right.
Well, I've heard that Jew is a break off from the Goyim word, grafted into the Yiddish word.
No, when you
we know that they, that some of our Jews don't even speak Hebrew no more. They speak Yiddish.
No,
but
you can read it. My bad, not trying to cut you off, but you can read in Esther, and Esther is when they started being called Jews, and that predates the hell out of all of them. The Yiddish, they ain't take it to like what, the 1900s, 1800s. So that go all the way back to Esther, the term Jew, right? But we gotta finish showing you what Paul was saying. Right, so we showed you how he wasn't going against the law, right? When he was talking about the curse of the law. Now read on.
Verse 14. That the blessing of Abraham might come on the Gentiles.
Read verse 13 again.
Verse 13. Christ hath redeemed us.
Has redeemed who?
Has redeemed us.
Right, he keeps saying us, right? Pay attention to that. Read on.
From the curse of the law, being made a curse for us.
For who?
For us.
Right, read on.
For it is written, curses every one that hangeth on the tree.
Read.
That the blessing of Abraham might come on the Gentiles.
Might come on who?
Might come on the Gentiles.
Read again.
That might come through the Gentiles.
Read.
Through Jesus Christ. That we.
That what?
That we.
Read it again.
That we.
What did Paul just call us?
That we.
What did Paul just call us?
That it may come through the Gentiles. That part you're talking about?
Yeah. Right. Read it again.
It says that the blessing of Abraham might come on the Gentiles.
So that the blessing of Abraham might come on the Gentiles.
That's not us.
Who?
That's them.
It's not, and I'm gonna show you. Right? Because what nationality was Paul?
I've heard that he was mixed, but he was. But the Bible says that he was a Pharisee, like a Benjamin.
Right. Go to Romans 11 real fast. 11:1.
Romans 11:1. I say then, hath God cast away his people? God forbid. For I also am an Israelite of the seed of Abraham, of the tribe of Benjamin.
So he was a Jew, right? So when we go back to Galatians, the 3rd chapter, right? Read it again. That the blessings might what?
That the blessing of Abraham might come on the Gentiles through Jesus Christ. That we.
That what?
That we.
Read it again.
That we.
What did Paul just call himself?
Wait a minute. I don't agree with that. I mean, I hear what you're reading, but I don't agree with that. Because one, while you're right, Paul was a Hebrew or an Israelite, but he was also a Roman citizen. Kind of like, I think that's kind of like what you were saying, how like the Hebrew does.
That's 100% like that.
But you American.
So,
right?
and you walking down the perfect street. Nah, you go ahead.
That doesn't necessarily mean he was, just because, you know, among the Israelites, there were sorcerers and sinners. That's commonly known. Like, there's a man by the name of Bar Jesus in the book of Acts, who was Israelite, but he was a sorcerer and he was not following the ways of God. So just because Paul was an Israelite doesn't make him necessarily someone that's credible. You know what I mean?
Meaning what?
That's what I said. That don't make him a credible source because he was an Israelite, or also because if you write, he referring to us as Gentiles, then he's wrong.
I got you. So for one, what makes him credible? One, he was stamped by Christ. Like Christ had came and spoke to him in vision. Even after
I can say that.
I know this one I'm about to verify. Even after that, who was the head of the church?
I think it was Peter.
It was Peter. And what did Peter say about it? We just read it. Go back to it real fast. 1 John. Or 2 Peter. 1 Peter. 2 Peter. 3:16.
We're gonna start at verse 15.
Right.
This 2 Peter, chapter 3. We're going to start at verse 15. In account that the long suffering of our Lord is salvation.
Right.
Even as our beloved brother Paul.
Even as what?
Even as our beloved brother Paul.
So who's stamping him? Peter. This is Peter who's the head of the church, who's stamping Paul as official. So when it comes to Paul being a messenger, right? Peter's the one that.
But Peter can't make anybody an apostle. No man has ever been able to make another man an apostle or a prophet. It's God who makes it. And I think, and it's in Romans chapter 1, Paul makes this case of why he's good. But then if you read any of the Bible, you will see that most of the prophets say that what they got from the Lord. Yeah. Even the book of Revelations will start that this is the revelation of Jesus Christ. Like any other book does it. But Paul, every time you read one of Paul's messages, he talks about how I know everybody thinking that I was killing. I mean, it's almost like if you take this man and now all of a sudden he say I'm an Israelite, I changed my ways. Are you gonna believe? You gonna just believe him? He been killing you and persecuting you and going after you, and anybody that confessed Jesus, that's who Paul killed. And now all of a sudden he has this change. All of a sudden he saw a vision. He never walked with Jesus or nothing like that. There's no, in the Bible, you scour it, there's no place in the Bible outside of that moment where Paul said he had a vision of Christ, where he actually talked to Christ. Outside of that little moment. So it's like, how can we use him as a source to verify us and verify us in the Word of God? I mean, and even though Peter was the head of the church, but when being the head of anything, I mean, look at America. You could say Donald Trump was the president, but he endorses you. Is that do you find that credible because he's the head of something? But you know what I mean? I just don't see how Paul is credible.
Right, for one, all right, we just showed you like how Peter stamped him as the head of the church. Even when I want to say it's James, but I could be misquoting it. Right, he told him he was going to be an apostle to the Gentiles. Now we were commanded to go be proselyte men. Right, real fast, go to Luke 14 and 23.
The book of Luke, chapter 14 and verse 23.
Right.
And the Lord said unto the servant,
What did he say?
go out into the highways and hedges and compel them to come in, that my house may be filled.
This is in Luke. Right, this is Christ talking. He said, "Go out to the highways and to the hedges, and my house may be filled." Compel the people to come in. So
Not these people though.
You said what?
We've been talking about these people.
He not talking about them.
Not the Goyim, the Gentiles.
They can't.
Right.
No, the Gentile. That's why we're trying to break down to you what a Gentile is. I wish we would have had our Bible dictionary out here. Brother had the Bible dictionary.
I have my Bible, and it might help. It's King James.
It's a dictionary. We need the dictionary though.
Well, really, all you need is the map in the back of the Bible to show you. Because Paul makes it very clear that he goes to the Gentiles, and he tells you, and he shows you where the Gentiles. You got to go where they are.
we breaking down to you what the Gentiles are.
But that's not us.
I got you.
I feel like you're trying to convince me that that's us.
I'm gonna show
Or was us at some point.
it was and is, and I'm gonna break it down to you. I go back to Galatians 3. You was looking for something?
I was looking up the letter.
Yeah, it's right here.
Yeah, you go to Galatians 3 real fast.
Galatians chapter 3, what?
Verse, where was he at? 14, 16? 14. Right, read down.
Galatians 3 and 15. Brethren, I speak after the manner of men, though it be but a man's covenant.
Right.
Yet if it be confirmed, no man disannul it.
So he says, though it be a man's covenant. Whose covenant? Whose covenant was it? Who was it given to? No, it wasn't given to
Abraham.
Moses. It was given to Abraham. So he said, though it be a man's covenant. Now he passed that covenant all the way down to who?
Jesus.
Not I wouldn't say Jesus, but he passed it down to Jacob, whose name was changed to Israel. So he said, though it be a man's covenant, right? What? Read on.
Though it be a man's covenant, yet if it be confirmed, no man disannul
He
it,
said, no man disannulleth, meaning that nobody can be taken away from it, or what? Read on.
or added thereto.
Or nobody can be added to the
What if
covenant.
I can show you that it is this one?
You said what?
What if I can show you that it is?
That it is what?
This or no?
You can't.
I can.
But you can't. It's
What if I can?
You can't though. You can attempt, but you can't. But we trying to.
Can I get my Bible? That's
Where?
King James. It's in my car.
You go ahead. You grab it real fast.
This the Gentile that I gotta find.
I was just reading it.
Nation.
It's called to be
Right, you don't go wrong with time. Right. I kind of want to finish Galatians real fast. Right. Go back to James or Galatians real fast.